Hi, welcome to How to Repair. I've got the Hotpoint and this model is a WMB742P UK, and this machine, I've just been running a couple of test cycles on the machine. The bearings on this machine have collapsed. Now this is running on an EVO2 circuit board, and as you can see if I open the door, the bearings have totally collapsed. This machine is actually only 7 years old. And it's a bit of a disgrace really, because it's unrepairable due to the fact that it has got a sealed drum. Now I actually picked this machine up from someone down the road, and this machine had only been used 3 times a week with a family of 3. This means that this machine is approximately 7 years old, although the date code on the serial number does indicate to me that it was 8 years since it was manufactured. The family actually told me it was only 7 years old. Since they had it, it might have been in the warehouse or whatever for a few months and shipping and so on. But this machine has only done 1,100 cycles, and this is a bit of a disgrace. It's unrepairable due to the fact that it has a sealed drum. The drum for this machine is over £260 to buy. The machine only cost the family £289 when they bought it, so it's just not economical to repair. But the good news is there is a load of great spares on this machine. Now I've actually put this with the belt off the machine through a test cycle, making sure that the PCB is good, the motor is good, the pump is good, the water valves are good. So all these components are good, and we're going to dismantle the machine. Okay, before I bring it down on the floor, I'm quickly going to take the lid off. I've already undone the 2 screws at the top. You just need to tap it backwards and the lid will come away. While it's here, I'm going to remove the outer band on the actual door seal and also remove the door. And here is a common fault that occurs on these machines. The soap drawer normally breaks on the 2 catches at the top, and you need to be careful when sliding this out. You want to support the actual pivoting point and then hold the soap drawer, and it should slide away. And it's normally this catch here that breaks, but that's a perfectly good soap drawer that someone will appreciate. Okay, next I'm going to remove the door. I will be going through all the error codes on this machine as we come to the point that I need to talk about them. These are 7mm bolts, and you just need to undo these and support the door. These doors break quite often due to young children swinging on them. For some unknown reason, children have a great attraction to hanging off washing machine doors. So if you do have children in the house, it's well worth making sure the door is always kept shut when the children are about. But as you can see here, there is a lot of mildew on the door seal, and that's usually due to people shutting the door without drying the door seal out. It's well worth doing that. But that door is normally somewhere in the region of £100, and someone will really appreciate this. Next, I'm going to remove the outer band on the actual door seal. Oh, by the way, that door that I just took off will be on the actual website, and I estimate we'll be putting it on there for somewhere in the region of £35. So they don't last long because they sell like hotcakes. That is a perfectly good band. There's no rust on them. Sometimes these springs can corrode, especially if people allow a lot of water to stay around this area. But that's a good band, and someone will appreciate that. Now the door seal can come off. And now we can remove the door lock. Okay, to remove the door lock on these machines, you make sure the power is disconnected. Firstly, you have 2 pins here. Press the pin down. Slide it slightly towards you, pressing the other pin down, and then let the door lock, turn at a slight angle, slide it back, and you can remove it. Now this machine, when it was first produced on the market, did have a recall for the door locks. And this was because Whirlpool, who actually took over Hotpoint, had a fault with the door lock and all the machines were recalled. This I will have to check before listing it on the site to make sure it's the updated door lock. Okay, while I'm at this point with the door lock, F06 may show on your display. This means that there is either a door lock latchment alignment problem. This is the pin on the door that goes into here, might not be aligning correctly, Say the children have been hanging on the door, or more commonly, the door lock has failed. But whenever changing one of these door locks, do inspect the wiring. It is quite common for these actual connector blocks to burn and get damaged. This was a problem that Whirlpool Hotpoint had, and also on the Intercept machines as well. So you want to make sure that all the cabling is good, and also the connection points in here are not burnt. That should help you out as well. Okay, I'm actually going to lift the machine down for filming purposes to show you how to dismantle the rest of the machine. But the first thing I'm going to do is remove the plinth. Behind here is the actual pump and filter cover. And all you need to do is use a flat blade screwdriver, press these lugs down, there's 3 of them, and the plinth will come away. Do be careful taking this off because some of these plastic lugs can get damaged. It's quite common for this plate to actually break. So we will keep this for people in the future. It does need a clean up, this one, but it will help someone out. Now we have the pump, which is located on the right hand side. If your machine is ever not emptying, then you may have a blocked filter. This is quite common, but don't just check the filter, also check the impeller. There are many videos on the website showing you how to clear the pump and any problems with the sump hose, because it only takes a small plastic bag, something left in the pockets, to block up the sump pipe or the actual pump filter. And I'll bring up the error code for this now. F05, by the way, is a common error code when it comes to the machine unable to empty in the allocated period of time. This can either be a pump problem, open circuit. You may have a blockage in the pump filter, meaning the machine is unable to empty the water in the allocated period of time. You may even have a small elastic band or something around the impeller, stopping it turning. And also check the impeller itself is attached to the pump shaft correctly, because if a coin has gone down there, it can actually damage the plastic and cause the pump impeller to be spinning on the shaft. And the other one is the actual sump hose can end up with a small baby sock, handkerchief, something like that, restricting the flow of water and not able to empty. The other common problem is the waste hoses on these machines are sometimes fitted to sink units, and this means that your sink unit may be blocked and stopping the machine emptying in the allocated period of time. Okay, now we're going to lift the machine off the workbench, and I am starting to get too old for this, to be honest. It's great when I'm only working with Hotpoints, Hoovers, Bosches, they're not too heavy. But I'm really starting to suffer when it's a Miele machine. Some of these machines now are in excess of 100 kilos. This machine is approximately 60, 70 kilos, so it's not too bad. And I'm still fit enough to be able to lift it. And as you can see, the belt I've taken off the back of the machine. Okay, we're going to dismantle the machine, and the first thing I'm going to take off is the top retention bar. And I'll be showing you the drum in a minute. Just 4 screws to hold this retention bar, and then I'm going to remove the concrete block. This is going to allow me to show you the drum to explain about what some of these manufacturers are doing with regards building obsolescence into their machines. I really am starting to create a campaign to boycott these companies that are building obsolescence into the machines deliberately. These manufacturers are not saving any money really at all by welding the 2 halves of the drum together instead of using bolts like they used to. Because if bolts were fitted to the machine, the bearings and spider would have been replaceable, and that might have only cost £55 in components. Okay, I'm going to remove the concrete block. It's 10mm bolts, and I'll just use my impactor. You should always do these bolts up, by the way, hand tight. Don't use an impactor when doing them up, because you can strip the plastic. Now, what I'll also do for someone, because I do get asked on many occasions, all the screws that come off this machine, I will put in a tub and we'll sell those for £3–4 as a little kit. So if you ever have a screw that's missing off the machine, then at least you will be able to buy a kit of screws for the whole machine. That should always help someone. Now we've got the concrete block off. Now, you will not believe, I don't sell these blocks because they're just too heavy to post. But What I do with them to recycle correctly is I use the old washing machine drums to either make barbecue stands or umbrella stands or even line holders. And you can see all about that video on the website or on our YouTube channel. Okay, next we're going to remove the front panel on this machine, and there is 2 screws in here. They are not steel, these screws are aluminium, and this is to stop any corrosion. So sometimes I have to tap them to get them out. There's 2 screws on the top here. And then there are a couple of clips at the bottom, and I'll show you them in a second. Now this one is quite tricky to get out because the soap drawer, sometimes it's a good idea to remove the soap drawer. And on the electrical panel here, or the display panel, is the actual wiring connection. And you only need to press the catch down and slide that away. Now, I could sell the display panel and the facial panel separately, but normally if someone's buying it, they'll normally just want to buy the whole unit. So I'm going to leave that as one component, and it will be sold specifically for this model. Okay, there's 2 ways to actually remove the soap drawer and the water valve. You can either remove the valve at the back, which I'm not going to bother to do here, I'll do it after, but there's 2 screws at the top here, and you need to support the actual soap drawer to undo these 2 screws, and then carefully, just giving it a wriggle, the actual soap drawer will come away from the water valves. Then we can slide it over, and I'll actually reposition the camera for you now because the soap drawer hose is attached on the back of this actual soap drawer. And let me show you that. Okay, here you can see the soap drawer hose clip. That pulls off, and then you will need sometimes just to peel it back, and you have the whole soap drawer here, and then we can take the hose off when we lift the drum out. Now the mains lead that goes into the machine is actually connected to the electronic suppressor or filter. This is to stop radio interference, and this is just 1 screw that you need to remove here. And then we need to go on the inside, and I'll just try and get this out so I can show you. You can see the electrical connections here. Take the earth off, pull the plug out, and sometimes they are sticky. And there we have the electrical filter and suppressor, and that is all in perfect condition. These normally sometimes blow. They can cause faults where there's no electricity going through to the actual machine, and that's because the suppressor or filter may have blown. You've got a feed in and also the feed out. So there's the 2 wires that come in from the plug, earth at the top, and then it goes through the filter and out, and that goes to the circuit board. Okay, next I'm going to take the water valve off. There's 1 screw holding this plastic cover, and there's also a clip here, but I'm just going to first remove the 2 electrical connections, and I'm just quickly going to show you how to test both solenoid valves. The most common error code for washing machine not filling is, believe it or not, H2O. It's pretty obvious. And that basically means the machine is unable to fill in the allocated period of time. And this last valve wiring is quite sticky. Now, if I get my multimeter here and I set my multimeter up onto, say, 20k range, turn it on, we should have an ohms reading on both of the water valves, and they should be the same. There's 2 electrical contacts there, and we have got 3.85 on that one, and we also have 3.9 on that one. There will be a slight variation on it, but that basically means that the water valve is in good condition. And now we can slide this out, and there's 1 more screw holding the valve in place. And then the valve will come away Someone has actually put PTFE on here. That's not a good idea. If your water valve is leaking, then it normally needs a new seal on the hose. It doesn't need PTFE tape. This just makes it very difficult to screw the actual connection on. Basically, on the hose, you've got a rubber seal, and that would need replacing, and that would stop any leaks. But I'll take all that off in a second. But that's a perfectly good water valve for someone, and also saving them quite a bit of money buying a used one instead of a new one. Okay, next we're going to remove the pressure switch. Now, the modern pressure switches work on a frequency that sends the data to the circuit board. The circuit board then controls via a relay when the water valve comes on and off. The old pressure switches used to have multiple wires on the pressure switch, and inside the pressure switch you would have just normal electrical contacts. As the water builds up in the bottom of the machine, it is connected to a pressure bowl and then a pipe that runs up to the pressure switch. As water fills in the actual drum, it pressurizes the air in the pressure chamber, therefore adjusting the pressure in the pressure switch. This then sends the data to the circuit board, and the circuit board via relays then control the actual on and off for the water, and also detects whether the machine has filled in the allocated period of time or emptied in the allocated period of time. F05, I believe, and don't hold me to that, I think is the error code for the pressure switch not working correctly. But to get them off is quite simple. There's a little clip at the top. You lift that up and then the wiring will come away. What is quite difficult to get off is the actual pressure switch from the actual housing. You actually need a very pointy screwdriver like this one, and there are a couple of clips just inside here, and sometimes it's a bit of messing about, but you need to press both of these down, and as you can see here, for it to come away. Then you're able to undo the clip on the pipe, give it a twist, and that is a perfectly good pressure switch that will really help someone out in the future. Okay, I'm quickly going to take the door seal off the drum because I have to lift the drum out of the machine once we've undone the suspension legs at the bottom of the machine and also removed the motor and the belt. I use just a little hook screwdriver, and if you look closely in here, and I'll show you in more detail when I get it off, I just lift the wire band over, and once that comes off, I am able to go round the door seal and peel it off. Again, this metal retention band is in perfect condition and can be used on someone's machine, but the door seal is in such a state it's not worth putting this for sale. Basically, it could also be damaged because the drum was so badly damaged as well. But we do have new door seals available at the website. So I'll discard that. Now all we have to do is remove any wiring that's on the machine and tilt the machine over, and this will allow me to take the belt off. Now, because the actual bearings had gone and the spider had gone on the machine, as you can hear, it is really collapsed. This is actually not the bearings, this is the spider, and I'm going to cut the drum apart, not only to show you how poor the quality of the bearings are in the machine, because these manufacturers are using cheap bearings instead of good quality ones, but I would love anyone that deals with metal, I think it's called a metallurgist, someone that studies metal. In my honest opinion, these manufacturers are not using good quality aluminium on the spider, and therefore the spider corrodes over a period of time. Yet again, building in obsolescence into your machines. Okay, the belts for these machines. Now, if this belt was damaged in any way, I wouldn't resell it, but this belt is in perfect condition. Now, just for anyone that wants to know, I'll explain the numbers on the belt for you. 5PJE is how many ribs the belt has got and the profiling on the actual, the V itself in there. And then the other number is 1206. This means the belt is 1 meter long, 206 millimeters, and that is the size of belt that is on this machine. And I'll just roll this up carefully, but this is a perfectly good belt, and we will most probably sell this just for £4 or £5, just to help someone out who might want a spare belt or a new belt for their machine. Okay, next I'm going to remove the motor, earth wire and the motor plug, and I'll just pull this plug off. I'll quickly explain the wiring configuration on this. There are 2 red wires followed by 5 black wires, and basically 2 of the wires, I believe it will be the red wires that go to the tacho, and the tacho is what counts the amount of RPM the motor is doing and relays this information to the circuit board so it can either increase the voltage or decrease or change the direction of the way the motor is turning. 2 of the other wires will be for the carbon brushes, and 3 wires will be for the motor fields, and that's basically the wiring configuration on this motor. I'll just use my impactor quickly to remove the bolts that hold the motor in place. Put your hand underneath the motor to support it, and I have a hook screwdriver here, and this is just to prise the motor off the plastic lugs because sometimes it can be sticky. Now this is a perfectly good motor. It's a Nordic motor, NIDEC, and it's a 20584.453 motor, and this will really help someone out in the future. All I'm going to do with this is actually take the carbon brushes off camera just to make sure that they are in good condition and long enough. Carbon brushes on washing machine motors can wear, and it's worth inspecting them every 5-6 years. Or if the motor does not start turning correctly, then don't use the machine. Always have a look at the actual carbon brushes, because it is a common thing to go wrong. Also, I forgot to mention, I think it's F02 is the motor tacho jammed, or I forget the technical information they give on it, but normally that indicates that there's some type of problem with the motor or the printed circuit board. So first thing to always inspect is the actual carbon brushes. Also, you will be able to do a reading on the tacho. There's many videos on the website showing you how to test motors and everything else, but that's a perfectly good motor. Okay, I would sometimes take the heater off the actual drum, but I'm going to do this when I've got the drum out. It makes it easier. You've got 2 wires for the heater, live and neutral, and then in the middle there is an NTC sensor, and that's just a plug connection, and you also have the earth wire. And then I'm going to unclip the wiring away from the drum, because on this machine, which is a ludicrous design really, they don't have a front panel that is removable. Hotpoint and Indeset machines, they use a welded cabinet, which means the drum has to come out of the machine via the top. It makes it really hard for doing any maintenance or serviceability. People like AEG, Zanussi, Bosch build a much better cabinet than Hotpoint and Indeset and Whirlpool. These welded drums are just basically another stab in the back, proving that they do not want you to service their machines. Okay, now I'm going to actually lie the machine completely down, and this will allow me to disconnect the hoses on the bottom here, and also remove the 2 nuts here that hold the suspension legs in place, and we'll take the suspension legs off once we've removed the drum, because it does make it a lot easier. So I've got a clip here and a clip here, so I'm just going to undo them, disconnect the pump, and I might take the pump off after. Matter of fact, no, I'll do that now so you can actually see how that comes on. But first I need to undo these 2 hoses. Okay, we have 1 clip here, and I'm just using, I haven't got my other pipe grips that I use, so I'm just using these to prise back this. And this is the sump hose. And I'll take this off after. We've got some water there, and look what is in here. First we have 21, is that a pound? Oh, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. I'm not too sure what that is. It's got the Queen's head on it, but it doesn't look thick enough to be a pound. Not sure. But also in here, the spider. This is bits off the spider, some type of steel pin, a small roller bearing, and a load of crud. I'll leave the some pose on, and I just need to undo this other clip, which I might be able to do with my hand. And that allows me to take off the waste hose. Matter of fact, I'll leave that on and take it off once I got the drum out of the machine. I only need to undo the 2 suspension legs now. Pushing the legs right up because I want these out of the way. Double checking that all the wiring is out, and I'm quickly going to remove the circuit board, and that is a star drive. And these are 2 torque 15 screws, and also the software interface cap. I just need to lift this off. Take out the pin at the top. This is just a plastic retention. Then the circuit board will slide up and come out. And if I lift the circuit board up through here so you can see, we have all the wiring configuration. Now, what I normally do here, because I know this is a perfectly good circuit board, I'm not actually going to remove the connections because I'm going to allow someone to see where they are connected. So I'm just going to cut the wiring, and this will allow the person who is swapping the circuit board so they don't make any mistakes on where the actual wires go. And it's just usually quicker and easier for me to cut, and making sure that the customer that buys this circuit board is easily able to identify all the actual wiring connections. And that is going to save someone a lot of money. Okay, I'm ready to take the drum out. I'm going to take the pump out after I've taken the drum because it'll make it easier, because rather than having to ferret about underneath. Now, normally you need 2 people to lift the drum out of the machine, but you've got to have the right tools for the job. And I've got a travel hoist. And basically what I do is and I just put the bolts in that came off the concrete block. No, a bit fell down the bottom, and then just lifting it up slightly will allow me to take out the 2 springs and the retention carriers at the top here, which you can see. Sometimes you need to just adjust it slightly. And that's 2 good springs and 2 carriers. Believe it or not, these plastic carriers do break on some occasions, so I will put them on the website. Making sure everything is clear. None of the wiring is catching. And then I can take the cabinet away. And that allows me to get the drum out without struggling. I always say you can't beat having the right tools for the job. Okay, I'll quickly take the pump out. Only 2 screws at the front. Then the pump lifts away. Now this is a perfectly good pump, but I can see that there is some debris inside the pump. And I'm just checking the impeller to make sure there's no damage to it. And that impeller is good. That just needs a rinse out, but that's a perfectly good pump for someone. And now the only thing I need to do is remove the wiring harness, and that's just basically cutting the wiring harness off and also removing the waste pipe for the machine, and that will also help someone. So I'll push that to one side, and now we'll have a look at the drum. You can see how bad the drum is. Okay, you'll notice here, by the way, the actual soap hose has actually got a marker on the bottom, and that just pushes in, and then you can take that off. And there's an actual marking point there for where that V is meant to go, so it aligns up with the soap drawer correctly. But that's a perfectly good hose for someone. I'll quickly remove the concrete block on the front, and then we can have a look at the suspension legs. Sometimes these concrete blocks, by the way, can actually crack. It is a common problem, but not that common. And now we need to take these 2 pins out so these suspension legs will come off. Now you'll see on the side of the pin there is a little point that you need to press in, and then you will be able to lever the pins through. I'll do the other side, and also I'll remove the pressure bowl with the sump hose as well. So let me just rotate that over. It's a Phillips. Undo the clip, that will come away. Then you're able to take the pressure pipe off with the pressure bowl and the sump hose. I'll give that a good clean up in a minute. Common faults that occur. These pressure bowls, sometimes if you use a lot of soap powder or conditioner, can sludge up in here, and this may give the machine a false reading with regards how much water is in the machine. And I just found another 22 pence. So this machine is rewarding me already. Now, when it comes to the top here, as I said, if I spin this round for you, you can see the pin at the top. Just press that pin and then prise that pin through, and then the pin will pull out all the way. I normally put that with the suspension leg, and then I'll put the nut on the bottom. And that's a perfectly good suspension leg. Last of all on the drum, I'll quickly undo the heating element, and that is a 8mm. So I'll just need to get another socket, bear with me. No, I lied, it's a 7mm, I'm sorry. Loosen the nut off, nearly to the top of the threads, and then just give it a tap downwards. This releases the pressure off the heating element. And then either with a hook, go underneath the heating element. Now sometimes these are nearly impossible to get out, and I might have to see if I can get this up without damaging the heater. And the heater has come out. Now this heater does have a couple of marks on it. This is because the drum has collapsed, and it's possible either the bits of aluminium that you could see that came out have marked the heater in some way, and I'm not willing to sell this because it might be suspect in the future. But the NTC sensor is in good condition, so I'll keep the NTC sensor. And now, just to embarrass Hotpoint in its full, I'm going to cut the drum apart off camera to show you the damage that has done to the spider. And this will give you an understanding into why they seal these drums. And if you look closely here, you can see all the way around where it's actually had the actual drum glued and welded together, stopping you gaining access to the bearings, the seal and the spider. It's totally disgusting. Okay, off camera, I quickly just cut the plastic. Let me first show you what the manufacturer does. They glue and weld these drums. There used to be screw lugs all the way around here that would hold the two halves together. Most of the Northern European manufacturers, Electrolux, Zanussi, AEG, Bosch, Hotpoint, Beko, Ariston, Indeset, and many others are welding the drums together. And they all started doing this within a year or so. It was like they went to a meeting and decided this was a new way that they were going to force general public into buying new machines. Because a lot of you younger viewers might be just thinking, oh, a washing machine should normally last 7-8 years. No, washing machines used to last 20 years without any problems whatsoever, and they were maintainable. This is an absolute disgrace, and governments are ignoring it, because governments are only caring about the consumption that goes on in society today. Without the cogs of industry turning, they are not propping up the false economies that we live in. Now, I'm going to have to try and yank this out because I do know the spider has gone. Let me bring this up to the camera. The shaft and the bearing assembly is here. This is totally corroded. And if you look closely at the aluminium here, it is all corroded. Wouldn't you build a quality of aluminium where the detergents or the water would not do this? They never used to do this often 20 years ago. They're only seeming to do it today. And in my honest opinion, and I'm no expert on metals, and I haven't got the financial resources to send one of these spiders off to get it analysed compared to the old spider, but if someone is in the industry, let me know. I would love to know the information. Anyway, that's the drum and spider. What I'm quickly going to do off camera now is knock the shaft out, and we'll have a look at how good the quality is on the bearings. Don't hold your breath. Okay, sorry, I forgot to tell you something. These nuts that hold the pulley wheel on the back are actually a torque, and I believe they're torque 30s, torque 40s. I have snapped so many bits in the back of these either because of the locking compound they use or just for heat and everything, they are very difficult to come off. So what I normally do is use a chisel, a steel chisel, and a hammer, and I start it first, I'm not worried about the pulley wheel, to loosen it up. And that means I will be able to undo this in a second. Rather than snapping a bit, it is well worth just doing that to loosen it up. And then this will come out quite easily. I actually sell these even second hand because they are just something, if someone was ever having to replace the pulley wheel, sometimes these get damaged so badly that they need replacing. Once that's off, the pulley wheel will come off. And now I can just give this a tap through. I would normally use a special piece if I wanted to get it out intact, but this is completely knackered already. So let me just knock that out. And I'm just looking for any markings on the bearings. These bearings are made in Poland and they're 6205Z on the inside. And I'll knock the other bearing and seal out just so you know, because there are actually some very clever people in Europe who are cutting the drums correctly using a laser line or a heated line and then joining the two halves together. But I'll just quickly knock that out off camera. Okay, I've just done some looking. The actual bearings are reasonable quality. I did some research on the company. They're not that bad of bearings. They're not really the cheap Chinese stuff that you get occasionally. The front seal on this is, bear with me 1 second, I'm covered in grease, is a 35/6.2/6.5/10.5. That is the actual dimensions of the seal. Now, I've done some research on this, and that seal costs between £3 and £5, depending on where you're getting it from. The equivalent bearing to the PPL bearing, which is a 6205Z, you can normally pick up between £4 and £5, and the other bearing might be £1 or so more expensive, and that was a 6206Z. That means if the bearings had gone on this machine, you would have been able to replace the bearings at a retail price of less than £20. Now, on the old Hotpoints, the WM series, when Hotpoint used to build something of quality, basically the spider on those machines were between £25 and £30. There is no difference in the manufacturing of them. They're still the same type of design, but in my honest opinion, they're using worse material than they used to. This means that this is corroding, or electrolysis is taking place in hard or soft water, and the calcium is also attacking it, and of course the modern soap powders today. I'm sure if they wanted to, they could make these things last, and also they could stop welding the drums up and causing this built-in obsolescence. And there you go. I've got a complete container here ready to list the parts. Motor, approximately £40, £45. Door, £35. The program, which is in perfect working order, that might be around £35, plus all the other components. There's most probably £200 worth of salvageable parts there. Not only will it put a few bucks in my pocket, but it will also help out no end of people in being able to repair their machines affordably. Because a new motor sometimes is up to £130, £140 minimum. The door, I told you, was £140 odd, but the main reason I'm doing this is to try and expose all this obsolescence that is built into appliances today. Now, I've got in the workshop at the moment another 5 Hotpoints to dismantle. I'll be doing individual videos on those. If they're the same model, I'll just explain what the fault is and I'll direct them to this video so they can see the full teardown procedure. And we'll try and rectify this problem that we've got in the world today, where manufacturers are forcing consumerism on us when we should be actually being more environmental friendly, and washing machines should be lasting a minimum of 10 years. Thanks very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon if you would like to be notified of any more videos in the future. All the parts will be on the website within the next few days. And thanks very much indeed for watching. And there are many videos on the website to help you out with individual error codes and fault diagnostic on individual machines. Thanks for watching.